Welcome to the Master Cars Pro channel. Today we talk about the problems and weaknesses of this wonderful car. We are starting with the power units as usual. The range of internal combustion engines designed for Mercedes W211 is presented in an almost equal ratio of gasoline and diesel engines and is able to satisfy the needs of even the most demanding motorists. Most of all, in the secondary market, there are cars equipped with simple 4-cylinder units of the M271 series. This engine has an aluminum cylinder block with cast iron liners and a balancing mechanism consisting of two shafts. A metal chain was used in the timing drive, which tended to stretch over the first 100,000 kilometers. You should not save on the replacement of stars, since not all analog manufacturers copy the design of the original phase regulators. The caulking spring of the phase regulator is also not a gift. It weakens over time. As a result, the phase regulator begins to characteristically beat when rotating. Another significant ailment of this motor is the hang of the exhaust valves, due to their tendency to carbon formation. To fix the problem, replacement of the exhaust valves together with the springs is required. The crankcase ventilation system is also prone to carbon formation, so much that tubes burst from an excess of soot and carbon particles fall into the cylinders and form scums there. With age, many specimens show lubricant leaks from the oil filter, housing and heat exchanger. The solution to the problem is to install a glass of an old design and a high-quality gasket using an anaerobic sealant. It is also worth noting the sensitivity of the internal combustion engines to the amount of extreme pressure additives, the quality and purity of the working fluid. The piston group resource exceeds 300,000 kilometers. The 6-cylinder engines are presented in the M112 and M272 series with a volume of 2.4 to 3.7 liters. The first is the youngest member of the family. The second belongs to the middle series of V-shaped sixes and has a charged version with 292 horsepower, volume 3.5 liters. The weak points of the M112 series include the crankshaft pulley damper, which delaminates over time, has a rubber layer between the outer and inner parts of the pulley. As a result, the pulley starts rubbing against the front of cover and sometimes reaches the pallet. Also, the crankshaft sensor and fuel injectors do not differ in reliability. The latter, moreover, are sensitive to the quality of fuel. While saving on fuel, the resource of the injectors will be 60–80,000 kilometers. Both faults are manifested by loss of and erratic engine operation. On older cars, there is a progressive increase to oil consumption, 1 liter per 1000 kilometers or more, caused by wear of the valve steam seals and excessive clogging of the crankcase ventilation. Through the fault of latter, grease seeps out from under the gaskets and oil seals, and the fuel consumption increases. Also, the cause of increased oil consumption can be a lubricant leakage through the leaky seal of the oil heat exchanger or damaged oil filter housing. Of the less significant troubles, it is worth noting a small resource of spark plugs for cars manufactured before 2005. 2 plugs were installed per cylinder. Mass airflow sensor, idle speed, camshaft position and lambda probes. Despite possible breakdowns, the units of this series are considered quite reliable. The main thing is to regularly maintain them in good service and feed them only with high quality gasoline. The resource of the units often exceeds 500,000 kilometers, but the power units M272 turned out to be with significant design mistakes, which were corrected only at the end of 2007. The weak point here is considered to be a gas distribution mechanism with double roll chain. The reason for the failure of the timing is the most often the rapid wear of the balance shaft sprockets, which require the removal of the motor to replace. In the presence of an ailment, the engine begins to thunder, triple, diesel and the check engine error appears on the instrument panel. As a rule, at the same time as the sprockets, you have to change the chain, tensioner, damper and camshaft magnets. It is not worth delaying the repair, since improper operation of the timing belt leads to overheating and further destruction of the catalyst with all the ensuing consequences. The exhaust manifold is also not famous for its reliability. Closer than 150,000 kilometers of run, plastic flaps wear out. The flap drive fails because of this dust penetrates into the cylinders, which quickly kills all aluminum motors. To fix the problem, you have to change the manifold assembly. There are also complaints about the reliability of the plastic plugs of the cylinder head. After 50–70,000 kilometers, oil begins to flow. On average, once every 150,000 kilometers, it becomes necessary to replace the valve stem seals due to the high operating temperature. They turn and begin to let oil into the combustion chambers. In addition, the high operating temperature of the internal combustion engine is often the main reason for the appearance of detonations, which are detrimental to the aluminum block. The explosive detonation wave easily destroys a thin layer of surface hardening of the cylinders. The line of V-shaped aids is represented by engines ranging from 4.3 to 5.7 liters of the M113 and 273 series, which are almost a complete analog of the M112 and 272 series internal combustion engines, but with only two additional cylinders. As a result, their stores are the same. The 113 engine showed a tendency of the crankcase ventilation system to contamination, increased oil consumption, oil leakage through the heat exchanger, oil filter housing, valve cover and oil seal gaskets, as well as the unreliability of the crankshaft pulley. In the 273rd engine, as in the 272nd, the main problems are caused by the high operating temperature, unreliability of the gas distribution mechanism, exhaust manifold flaps and balancing shaft sprockets, but here they do not need to be removed to replace them, which simplifies and reduces the cost of repair. The line of diesel units on the Mercedes W211 is represented by a 2.2 liter inline 4 OM646, a 2.7 liter OM647 5-cylinder engine and 3.2 liter OM64H 6-cylinder engine. If you do not take into account the different number of cylinders, then there are practical or structural differences between these motors, and their weak points are the same. Common rail fuel equipment is the most problematic. In addition, fuel injectors, resource 150 and 200,000 kilometers, tend to stick to the cylinder head block. Because of this, to replace them, it is necessary not only to dismantle the block, but also to break it. Also, the pressure sensor in the fuel rail, the fuel shut-off valve, the EGR valve and the high-pressure pump are considered quite problematic, in case of malfunction of which there are difficulties with starting and the stability of the unit. In addition, the specialists of the branded service stations note a tendency to carbon formation of the intake manifold, leading to further jamming of the damper mechanism. Periodically, it is necessary to check the condition of the quick couplers of the fuel system, since their unsatisfactory condition leads to airing of the system. In the electrical part of the motor, the crankshaft and camshaft position sensors most often fail, and the injector wiring burns out. Another possible nuisance is the failure of the turbine geometry control drive. To reduce the risk of this malfunction, the engine should be regularly turned at high revs. If you do not take into account the problems caused by the use of low-quality fuel and the need to change the crankshaft liners every 200–250,000 kilometers. The first significant breakdowns with proper maintenance with engines occur at a mileage of 500,000 plus kilometers, which is the same result today. For this generation of cars, a manual transmission and two automatic ones were available before restyling. A 5-speed 5G Tronic automatic was installed. After that, a 7-speed 7G Tronic appeared, which was installed on rear-wheel drive cars, as well as paired with V6 and V8. On the Mercedes W211, mechanical boxes of the 716.6 and 711.6 series were installed. Despite the fact that this type of transmission is unpretentious and has an acceptable level of reliability, it is very risky to buy a car with a manual transmission, since these cars as a rule were bought in corporate parks and for service and a taxi, where they more than developed their resource. The main element of this type of CP is the unreliability of the backstage. The gear selection mechanism and the small gear selection bracket, in which the seat breaks over time, are considered problematic. The gear selector shaft seal also requires attention. To save money and time, in many services, when eliminating the ailment, the stem and bracket were scalded. However, this is strongly discouraged, since it will be impossible to replace the oil seal in the future. Most cars with a mileage 200–300,000 km require replacement of the input shaft bearing, oil seal and shank bearing. It is recommended to change the oil in mechanics every 150,000 km, and the clutch kit can withstand about the same. The 5-speed automatic is one of the most reliable automatic transmissions produced by the Daimler concern, and with proper maintenance does not bother with breakdowns for a long time. But, as they say in our time, nothing is eternal. The first problems with the mechanical part of the box occur closer to 250,000 km and, as a rule, are caused by malfunction of the overrunning clutch separators. By 300,000 km of run, many copies required replacement of a worn-out torque converter, lock-up lining and bushings, the resource of which largely depends on the frequency of lubricant renewal. But the electrical part of the box can be much more troublesome, especially if you do not monitor the clearness and oil level. With a rare change of the working fluids, the gas turbine engine blocking solenoid valve and the pressure regulator solenoid are most likely to fail, the malfunction of which manifests itself in jerks when the drive mode is turned on and when cold. An electric stove with speed sensors also dies very quickly, with frequent overheating of the gearbox, the resource of the speed sensors and the contact plate of the valve body, which is in direct contact with the oil decreases. In a 7-speed automatic, due to the high operating temperature, the electronic part of the box is most often annoying. The main problem of 7G-tronic is the rapid aging of the wiring and electronic components, on which the performance of the transmission as a whole depends in modern boxes. There are also complaints about the operability of the control servo drive manufactured by Siemens. The two hard-working solenoids are also not famous for their reliability. EPC and TCC, which as a rule need to be replaced every 50–100,000 km. In addition, the control board and the gearbox valve body are very sensitive to the purity of the working fluid, and if you delay it for a long time, failures in the operation will not take long. The fastest of all wear products disables the solenoids and closes the valve body channels, not without weaknesses in the mechanical part of 7G-tronic. Most of the complaints from the owners of the Mercedes W211 were received by the oil pump, whose resource rarely exceeds 100,000 km. Also, do not count on the long service of the gas turbine engine, in which, even with a calm driving style, after 150,000 km of run, the linings are destroyed. With an aggressive driving style, vibrations from abrupt starts quickly break the bell of the machine body. The resource of the 7th stage before overhaul rarely exceeds 200,000 km. Due to the fact that the Mercedes W211 is rarely operated in difficult road conditions, the Fullmatic all-wheel drive system does not cause any particular problem. The weak spots of the wheel drive can only be attributed to the anthers and bearings of the intermediate shaft or the front axle. The main cause of the ailment is their poor location due to the fact that the shaft passes through the crankcase of the power unit, the anthers and then the bearings are quickly surrendered. Another nuisance is the tendency of the shaft acidification. As a result, additional difficulties arise when dismantling it for repair work. Dismantling the shaft must be done with extreme caution, since you can overdo it with effort and break the light alloy crankcase, replacing which is not a cheap pleasure. The rest of the elements, the propeller shaft, the rear gearbox, take care of 150–200,000 before repair. The rear gearbox take care of the 150–200,000 before repair. The only thing that is required from the owner is to monitor the condition of the anthers and periodically check the system for oil leaks. Well, if you are the owner of this car, then please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your feedback what will help yours when choosing the car. I'm done. Thank you all very much for your attention. I'm very grateful to you if you subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. See you soon!